Well, good morning. How are you all today? And welcome to Integrative Preparedness. This is my second one of the day. I just shot the one, and it should be up before you see this one. About is it all going to pop off tomorrow on the 4th or sometime this week? This is the second of 3 that I'm going to make today because there's just so much to talk about, so much to say, and my list of videos is getting too long for me to catch up, so I'm just going to have to start shooting more than one a day, I guess, for a while, because I've got a lot to say. Did I say welcome to Integrative Preparedness? If I didn't, I should have, and I meant to. And welcome to all of you, especially the new people. You'll find that we are a community here, a good community, a nice community of nice, polite people. We discuss things. We don't jump up and down and yell and scream and try to scare the hoo-ha's out of you. There's my dog protecting me from the squirrel and anybody else that wants to come along. But he's letting that squirrel know he'd better stay up in the tree instead of come down here. So anyway, this is a place where we're nice and polite and we treat each other well, and we love our commenters. So if you're new, feel free to comment. Just make sure that you act as if you're coming into my house. You wouldn't be rude to me. You wouldn't be rude to any of my other guests, and you're going to learn a lot. I claim to have the smartest commenters in YouTube land, and all you have to do is read the comments and you'll find out that I ain't lying. If you want even more, come join us over on the Patreon channel. The link is down below. That's where we have our real top tier folks. We put stuff over there, a lot of stuff that doesn't appear on YouTube, not just from me but from other people. Our patrons over there, very, very smart folks. They know a lot of stuff I don't, and so I'm always interested to read their comments and go to the community section. Again, if you're not getting on the community section, you guys who are on Patreon, make sure that you are, because there's stuff over there you want to see. From your fellow patrons, this topic, do preppers have it all wrong? Or a lot wrong? Let me just put it that. Do preppers have a certain major part of their preparedness wrong? And I'm going to contend that they just might. And I'm going to include myself in that. One of the things that we, the basic legs of preparedness, right? Food, water, shelter, defense, and people. Okay, I know air, I know. Yeah. Food is usually the first one that people tick off on that. Water is actually air and water are the first, but food is the biggie. It's the granddaddy. It's the one that most preppers concentrate the most on. They could do it either through storage, which most of us do. They could do it through gardening, which most of us do, by the way. I just went out, watered a garden today. God gave me some new peppers, and they are just beautiful. I'm going to grill those up here in a little bit with my eggs and bacon. And some more cherry and grape tomatoes. I'm going to drop them all over the place. Just a whole handful over there you can't see. The big ones are coming in. So we concentrate on that. We concentrate on being and many have said, and I have said, you have to be your own producer. You have to be your own food producer. The purpose of your food stores is to keep you alive until you're producing all the food you need. Okay? However, and most of us do that with gardens and orchards. Okay? If you can see out behind you, you see my gardens. I'm not going to show it. You see my, because there's stuff out there that I don't want the world to see. You'd see my gardens. You see my apple trees, my peach trees, my pear trees, my plum trees. All sorts of things. And many other of you are just like that, right? And so that's what we've concentrated on. Well, a few days ago, over on Patreon, I started talking more about what's referred to as the carnivore diet. The reason that I did that is because I saw J.J. Johnson make one over on his channel. He's gone on the carnivore diet. If you don't know about it, it's maybe one of the most life-changing things you can do. Very possibly. I haven't talked about it at all until a few days ago, because I don't mean to jump all over JJ's or tread on his. I'm not trying to take away from his at all. Go over and watch his on Reality Survival, because he does one of the best jobs of a non-medical person explaining the carnivore diet and what it's done for him. He's dropped 25 pounds. Already. He says he's going to do another 25, but he did a great job explaining it. Great job. Well, I happen to have been a promoter, not on here, but a believer in the carnivore diet for some time, and I have seen it change my life 100%. Matter of fact, I thought I was in good shape. As a matter of fact, that's what I called one of my Patreon videos, Change Your Life, how to change your life 100% immediately. And I put some links to the doctors. This is no crazy diet. This is backed up by science and some very serious physicians who actually look like they're healthy, not these little weenie doctors that, want you to eat the plant-based stuff and the fake burgers. And they lay out the science, and among them, and when I post this on Patreon, I'll put links to some of them, but you can find them on your own. Dr. Ken Berry, Dr. Anthony Chafee, what's the guy? He's a big bodybuilder. I don't take to him so much, but apparently he was like one of the first ones that got everybody else to try it. Sean Baker. I don't know why I don't take to him. I just don't. Some people don't take to me. Can you imagine? But a long time ago, and don't worry, we're getting back to what preppers have wrong. Some time ago, a couple of years ago, Kelly started pestering me about this keto and carnivore diet. Well, when keto came out, I was still working at the hospital, and keto was all the thing, right? Everything was about keto. And I just got sick of hearing it. And all the nurses were talking about keto and carbs and all, but you know what the problem was? I don't take dietary advice from fat people. And many of them fell into that category. Plus, most of them couldn't explain. They just had an opinion, much like me. But I'll show you where to go to get the explanation. They were almost like cult followers, They were so wrapped up, so concerned in this stuff. And I said, well, that doesn't make any sense, because it was completely against everything that I knew or thought I knew from my really intensive study back when I owned a gym and back when I was training people and I was training hard myself. And I didn't get my information out of these magazines that you pick up at the grocery store at the checkout. I mean, I spent hours and hours and hours over years at the University of Missouri Medical School Library going through the professional literature. That's where I got my information. So I thought I knew what I was doing. Okay. Well, so when this started coming out, and I just poo-pooed it, right? Kelly would try to tell me, that's completely opposite of the truth. It's the opposite of what I think I know. And that's a bunch of junk. Now, most of the people who were talking about that didn't show me the results. I wasn't seeing the results. I was hearing a lot of talk. I wasn't seeing the results in them. Okay. None of them were telling me how to change their lives. They were just like all a part of this mass hypnosis, it seemed, following keto. Well, then after that, Kelly started telling me about this carnivore, which sounded even crazier. Only eating animal products and really only eating meat. And if you want to get the best, only eating red meat. mainly beef. I said, I don't, I don't believe that. One day I said, okay, I'm going to try it. If nothing more than just to prove that this is a bunch of junk. Now, I've mentioned before, I'm not sure if I've mentioned it here on YouTube, but I think I have on Patreon, that somebody called me Rice Krispies one time, because my body has just been beat up so much through my life over things that I've done. Tussles I've been in, law enforcement, martial arts. I mean, I don't know that I have any part of me that hasn't been damaged at some time in some way. And so, as a result of the cumulative effect of that, I mean, you know, some of you are like this. You get up in the morning and you're like, ugh, yeah, and so, I mean, I would snap, crackle, and pop for a while, for an hour after I got out of bed until things started loosening up, right? And a lot of friends of mine were like that, so we all thought it was normal. Just getting older, right? And the cumulative effect of injuries. And when I'd get up in the morning and I'd go out, come out of my bedroom, and I'd come downstairs, I'd have to hang on to the side railing to get down the stairs. So one day I quit eating all the stuff that I normally eat and just ate meat. Might eat eggs too, I don't know, I forget. Because you can have eggs on this too. Meat and eggs. And butter. Well, if you haven't had a steak just soaked in butter, real butter, you don't know what you're missing. And bacon. Tell me what could be better than that, right? That's man candy, or, you know, good woman candy. And so I ate just pure carnivore one day, and I said, well, I don't know if I'm gonna, you know, I'll try it and see if I can do it. If I can do it for a couple of days. The very first day, I swung my legs out of bed, not realizing that I had swung my legs out of bed. This was after one day. Put my feet on the floor, and I said, something feels weird. This doesn't feel right. I stood up. And you know how I stood up? I just stood up like I did when I was younger, instead of like, okay. I walked in to the bathroom, realized that I was just walking, got dressed, came out, came downstairs, realized I wasn't holding on to the handrail. It doesn't matter. I was walking down the steps. I was almost bouncing down the steps. I said, this is nuts. This is crazy. I don't feel an ache or a pain or hear a snap, a crackle, or a pop. This is nuts. I started doing it more. And after that, I started believing. Now, I'm not going to say that I'm yet at the point that I'm going to take off my shirt to impress you. I don't know. Maybe I would. But that changed my energy levels are through the roof. I sleep through the night. All my life, I've never slept longer than 10 minutes at a time, because I'll sleep on the side, something starts hurting, I turn over to the left, and I wake up every time I do it. And I'll sleep there for 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and something starts hurting again, I turn over again. That's the way I've slept for 40 years. I slept through the whole night. Slept through the night. I woke up with clarity and energy you can't believe. So I have been a believer. Now, this getting back to this, I've never talked about that, and it was because of JJ putting up his video over there that made me, because I put the link to his video for my patrons over on the Patreon channel. I didn't do it here, but I put them up for them, and I give him full credit. I'm not trying to, you know, walk on his video, because he's exactly right, and he did a great job. This brings us back. So now I have changed my idea. So here we are, a whole bunch of people involved in preparedness, and what do we stock? And I've always stocked a lot of protein. I've always stocked a lot of canned meat and things like that because I know that protein is important. Well, Steve, you can have a complete protein if you put beans and rice together. Yeah. Okay, so you say. Well, you do not get the benefits of animal protein. And if you knew how much, well, I'm not even going to get into that because this is not a place for an argument about that. But what do most of us in stock, and what do we grow and suggest to others? Rice, beans, vegetables, right? Isn't 90% of what we can or stock non-meat items? It is. Let me tell you the story. I've told this before. I told it on Patreon channel. I've told it on the church channel. I'm going to just briefly tell you. Let's see if I have time to tell you the story of Joseph, because it talks about this. Yeah. I'm going to make this really short. You've read or you've heard the story of Joseph in Egypt, right? Okay. It was not a story of preparedness. It was a story of slavery. Everybody thinks about him, being the second great prepper after Noah. No. So Joseph, I won't go to the story how he ended up in Egypt being the head of, he was able to, God showed him the meaning of a dream that Pharaoh had. He told Pharaoh, you can have 7 years of plenty and you can have 7 years of famine. Pharaoh says, well, you're a smart guy. I'm putting you in charge of doing whatever it takes to get us through that. Joseph says, okay, we're going to bring in a certain percentage of all of the grain of the country into the storehouses. Into what storehouses? Into the government storehouses. Listen carefully to this. Watch this carefully. We're bringing it into the storehouses to get them through. The famine comes. The end of the 7 years of plenty comes, and the famine gets there. The people are starving. Joseph says, does he say, come on in here, we have this grain, this food to give you? No. He says, come on in, we have grain, come buy the grain from us, from Pharaoh. Buy it from the government. Okay. Stick with me a minute, because you're gonna see a flip here. First year, they go by, okay, they've all their money. The second year comes along, second year of the famine. The people are starving. They said, please feed us. We're starving. You have all of our money. Please feed us. Joseph says, okay, bring me all your livestock. Bring all of your livestock to the government, and we'll feed you. Feed you with what? Have you ever wondered why didn't they just eat their livestock? No. He brought and keep breeding, because livestock, they keep breeding. You get more. No, they brought all their livestock in to Joseph, into the government, the good high quality protein into the government, for which the government gave them grain. Right? They lived another year. After that year, they're starving again. They say, please, we're starving. We have nothing. You have all of our money. You have all of our livestock. Don't let us die. We have nothing to give you except for our land and our bodies, ourselves. Joseph said, okay. Give me all your land. Give Pharaoh, give the government all your land. And yourselves as slaves. And we will feed you. Okay, so the Pharaoh, the government, got all the money, all the livestock, all the land, all the people as slaves in exchange for feeding them grain and keeping them alive. And then after that, Joseph says, okay, you can farm on this little spot from here on. You give a percentage to Pharaoh. So they became sharecroppers. I tell that story because most people had never realized that wasn't a story of preparedness. It was a story of government preparedness and the way that they made slaves of the people. And most were never told that story that way or thought of it that way. But here's another thing. Do you think that Pharaoh and everybody there was eating grain? No. They brought the grain in to feed the people. The low quality calories to feed the people. What do you think they were eating? Do you think Pharaoh was eating a nice pancake? Or a salad? Or was he eating steak and mutton? What do you think? Yeah, I think they were eating meat. I could make other biblical references here, but I won't. This is where I think many preppers, me included, have been wrong. And it was only as a result of my wife badgering me. And me finally giving it a try, probably just because I'm as stubborn as she is. She's as stubborn as I am. We both are. But she badgered me until I listened. I tried it, probably just to prove her wrong. I know that's I know, that's terrible. But how often do we do things like that, right? To be honest. Because I thought I knew. I found out I didn't know. I found out that meat is where it's at. And when you apply this to preparedness, think about all the time we spend in our gardens. Think about, even in my first book, the first thing that I have Jim Wyatt doing when he gets home in the reversion, first thing he does is he goes out and starts plowing up a couple of more acres to plant more what? Plant more cows? No. To plant more food. Out of the ground. I think that is not the way to go. So anyway, what I'm going to say is think about all the effort, time and effort we put into growing vegetables and fruits and things. I'm not even going to, okay. Staying on subject. All the time that we spend on growing, tending our gardens, or even cultivating the production of fruits and vegetables. And most people, I know a lot of people out there have, chickens and things like that. But I think that the people who are going to do the best, who do the best now, I mean, my family, had farms, raised a bunch of cattle. And pigs. I'm not, I think there are reasons to stay away from pork, but, others don't feel the same way. And I don't do it necessarily for a religious reason at all. I think there are reasons that pork, except for bacon is proof that God loves you. I'm being facetious there. So they raised cattle. Did very well. Ate well. I've told the story about how my granddad worked in a slaughterhouse during the Depression. His family ate better than anybody else. Was that by mistake? I don't know. So I think I am going to take a look at going in a different direction. And then seeing, now we have become big carnivores, my wife and I. And the kids are kind of coming along. We're not forcing anything on them. But we both see the difference in our health, in our mental clarity, in our energy, everything. And I think the people who are going to survive well long term are not the people that are out there spending all day long in a garden or plowing or planting things for them to eat, but are raising meat stock. I think that's the play. And what that does, because, that opens up a lot of area. Because when we talk about the best place to live in SHTF, the growing season is important, right? Well, and the kind of soil that you have, right? What it will grow. Not so important if what you're thinking about is cattle and goats and sheep. Not so important. It's why western Kansas, Nebraska, Texas, Oklahoma, full of cattle. There's a lot of places out here you can't grow much but wheat. But you can grow wheat. What do you get when you do that? Hay for the animals who eat off the fields. Now, some people put a lot of extra money into their cattle, and they're always sending them to the vet and all this. We never did that, our family. They ate grass during the grass season, and then hay that we cut off our farms during the winter. Somebody just, I saw a video, I don't remember who it was, but it was somebody selling their cattle because they couldn't afford the hay. And I thought to myself, and I don't remember who it was, so this isn't a poke at anybody. I said, what in the world? Why aren't you growing your own? I mean, we did. And I know plenty of people who do. That's the problem of being too specialized. Well, I raise my cattle, but I buy my hay. Why? Grow your hay. Yeah, I mean, you don't grow hay, but you know, grow it. Cultivate that to feed the meat that you're going to eat all year long. And depending on where you live, there's a lot of places around the cattle can eat grass all year long. And you know what they turn that grass into? They turn it into steaks. Anyway, this is where I am, and it's been a long time since I took a turn in preparedness. Because I've done this for so long. But I only discovered this in the last couple of years and only really became a believer in the last 6 months. So that's why I'm sharing it with you all. I think that in this case, preppers have it wrong. And what this means is that people all agree. It means that the rancher is going to be in better shape than the farmer. Okay? Think about that. When I put this video on Patreon, I will put links below to several of the doctors, Ken Berry, Anthony Chafee, maybe a couple of others, maybe a couple of other videos that will let you hear from them the science behind carnivore. And I encourage you to consider it. Because there's a lot of people out there that need a life change, a health change. I put on, here's something else I'll just throw in. I'm not going to explain this. Did you realize the Bible says that we should live 120 years? Yeah. Genesis, is it 6:3, I think? And Dr. Chafee explains, he says, you know, when we look at the physiology of the body, of the human body, and we look at everything, he's a neurosurgeon, okay? He's a neurosurgeon. You think he might know what he's talking about? Watch his video, you'll see. He says, when we look at the human body, it shows us it should live for about 120 years. And right here, because this is going on YouTube, I'm going to have some people come on and say, well, I don't want to live 120 years. Well, I covered that in yesterday's Patreon video, and that's because if you say that, it's because you're not living a life that you should. You're not living a life that's fulfilling and enjoyable, and that's why you're ready to check out. That's a horrible way to live your life. Don't be like that. Okay. So anyway, this is, in my opinion, a sea change for preparedness. It is going to be a big change for me. I'm still going to raise. I'm still going to eat my tomatoes and peppers because I got them in the ground. Okay. But I'm going to change the way I prepare in the future because of this. And I would suggest you look into it, because I think that just like we know that the old food pyramid is wrong, I'm going to say that the prepper pyramid in food has been wrong in the past. Do with it what you will. I wish the best for you. Remember that this and all my videos are brought to you by my books, the Stonemont series. I'm going to have Jim starting to raise more. He already raises cattle and buffalo and all that, but I'm going to start explaining this a little bit more in the next books. Anyway, it's the Stonemont series, the reversion, the revival, the renewal, and appeal to heaven, the blessings of freedom, and hostages to fortune. The best preparedness series you will ever read about exactly how to prepare for, how to survive, and how to rebuild after a complete collapse, available through Amazon in both paperback or Kindle, or directly from me if you would, and autographed copies. There's a place, if you order through our website, stonemont.us, all those links are down below. There's a place you say, would you like Steve to sign your book? What would you like him to write? Let me know. I'm happy to do it. I love that relationship with my readers. And t-shirts are on there too, by the way. I'm gonna have to design some new t-shirts because of what I've discovered with the importance of eating meat. Consider what I've said. You're going to be glad you did if you do it. Remember that we prepare well today in order to live well tomorrow. And I'll talk to you tomorrow. Bye-bye.